The Flow Friday Night Sports Show is repeated 8 a.m. till 10 a.m. on Saturday morning, and we continue on now nearly towards the end of the first hour of the program, but we need to talk about the World Game with Ellis Gelios. We've got him in the studio today as the co-host of the program. For now, though, mate, you're going to have to put on your Flow News 24 correspondent cap because I know you've written an article. It's up there now for people to have a look at about A-League action.
Yes, I've got my metaphorical shin pads on, ready to go, Statman.
Excellent. Hey, before we get to your article and what's happening in the A-League here in Australia, let's have a look at the Champions League. And I know you're up and about because your boys Liverpool, whilst they can barely win a game in the Championship at the moment, or even get any sort of result, they're struggling to get a draw at the moment there. 4-0, they've moved through to the quarterfinals of the Champions League. That's 4-0 on aggregate over the two legs. Did it in a canter.
Yes, RB Leipzig would have been eyeing this one off as a game they probably should have contended in much better than they did, considering Liverpool's utter woes domestically, Statman. It's been quite a terrible 2021 for Jurgen Klopp and Liverpool. All kinds of rumours, particularly recently with Joachim Low, the Germany manager, announcing he'll be stepping down at the end of the Euros. That brought on a lot of speculation. Jurgen Klopp was just about ready to move on from Liverpool and get himself into that highly coveted Germany national team job. He has quashed that rumour for now, but Liverpool getting it done, you probably would have expected them to as well, considering they took that 2-0 advantage out of Germany back to Anfield the other morning, which they had to protect, but got over the line, won 2-0, and it very much feels as though now Jurgen Klopp will be putting all his eggs in the UEFA Champions League basket because they're sitting 8th in the Premier League. Doesn't look good for them there, but if they win the Champions League, of course, they will play in the Champions League again next season instead of whoever finishes 4th in England. So it feels as though that's probably what they'll be doing.
Yes, and that is the most important thing for Liverpool for the remainder of this season is win the Champions League. So they aren't alone, though. It looks as though there could be 4 English sides through to the quarterfinals. One that we know will be through isn't an English side. It's PSG. They knocked out Barcelona 5-2 on aggregate over the two legs. Dortmund over Sevilla, and they did that 5-4. But the biggest surprise so far in the knockout stage has absolutely been Juventus, who won the game against Porto 3-2, but Porto won the tie on away goals, and they go through to the quarterfinals.
Yeah, this is huge. We haven't seen anything from a club in Portugal at all, really. Not just Porto, but anyone from Portugal since a long time back. But it was Porto that obviously won that famous edition of the Champions League back in 2004 under the very little known Jose Mourinho. It feels like they're making a name for themselves again after this result, going to Juventus and managing to get out as winners on aggregate is a huge result. Ronaldo coming under some fire, of course, the legendary Cristiano Ronaldo for conceding the free kick, which Porto managed to score the crucial goal from late on in the game. Juventus were, of course, down on aggregate, but you would have expected them to get it done back in Italy. Obviously, a club of their magnitude. They're not having the dominant season domestically that they would like to either. We know that it's been an absolute piss take in Italy for the last 10 years with the Juve very much dictating the tempo in Italy, but it doesn't look like they'll win the Serie A this year, so they would have been eyeing off the Champions League, and they're not going to get that one either.
No, they are not. So a couple of legs still to play in the coming matches that we'll talk about. I mentioned there before English sides through to the quarterfinals. That's tough when there's only 3 through to the round of 16. All 3 are in the box seat to go through. Liverpool already have. Man City, they should go through, shouldn't they?
Yes, very much so. We've spoken about how these ties can be troublesome for City when a sort of far lesser European club comes to play them. They can get into that rhythm of sort of playing a reserve side and just trying to get away with it. I don't think Guardiola will do that, though, because he's got obviously a huge lead back in the Premier League, so he doesn't need to be rotating his squad too much. I think just go out, get the job done, make sure the tie is finished, and you get out without any injuries. Just play it safe, play your best 11, and City should get out of this one quite comfortably against Borussia Mönchengladbach.
Well done on the name. I'm glad you had a crack at that. Chelsea, less certain. They're against Atletico Madrid, who are a very defensive side. They're 1-0 ahead and will play the second leg at home. So Chelsea in the box seat, and haven't they bounced back after getting rid of Frank Lampard?
Absolutely. Thomas Tuchel doing some wonders there at Stamford Bridge. And as you mentioned there, Atletico Madrid, not much chop when it comes to a reliable performance on the road. They're a very defensive team. They like to score off set pieces and then hold out. So, I mean, it's not impossible, Statman, but Chelsea at home in a game with stakes as high as this, I do not see an upset on the cards.
Highly unlikely. Bayern Munich, there won't be an upset here. They're 4-1 in front on aggregate and about to play at home, so they'll go through.
Yes, the current holders of the Champions League very much looks like it will take a brave person to bet against them retaining the Champions League. Again, this time round, obviously made very light work of Lazio. You would expect a much tougher tie when the quarterfinals commence for Bayern Munich. But yeah, I suspect they'll probably get away with playing a bit of a second string and focusing on the Bundesliga at hand.
And to finish with, the last one is Real Madrid, who are 1-0 up on aggregate in their tie. The second leg will be played in Madrid on Wednesday, and they should go through as well. So we've got some fairly serious heavy hitters looking like they'll get through to the quarterfinals.
Yes, there's been crazier things that have happened in the world game in recent times than Madrid stumbling at home, particularly against a side of Atalanta's pedigree, who have got plenty of goals in them, and they've definitely made a good name for themselves domestically in the Serie A this season. So don't completely write them off. Madrid are quite untrustworthy these days, particularly without a real heavy hitter up forward for them after they lost Ronaldo a couple of years ago. But yeah, you're right. I think taking the 1-0 lead out of Italy back to Spain at the Bernabeu, their famed home, of course, they should be okay.
Tough to toss there, you would think. Let's move on to A-League news, Ellis, and we'll have a quick look at the ladder, the way it sits at the moment. Central Coast on top, MacArthur Bulls second spot in their inaugural season. Western Sydney Wanderers into third at the moment. A game in hand, Adelaide United on those top three. They are well positioned now in the top four. Can you believe that, the Reds?
No, I can't. But again, I've seen crazier things happen regarding Adelaide United over their famed 15-odd-year history. But look, I think the ones to really look out for right now are Melbourne City, Statman, because it was only a matter of weeks ago that we were talking about Patrick Isnorbo being on the absolute nose regarding his job as the gaffer there at Melbourne City. Suddenly, 3 weeks later, he's won his last 3 games in a row. And how emphatic to do it against your biggest rival. Melbourne Victory 6-0.
Unbelievable what's happening to Melbourne Victory this year. If you had a look at that ladder, you could be forgiven for wondering, is this the right way around? Melbourne Victory just languishing at the foot of the table, won one of their last 4 games, 7 points only for the season in 10 games, so and a differential against of minus 13. So they are as bad as we've seen a team. And how do we say that about Melbourne Victory? They are that bad at the moment. It is frightening.
It's funny, I recall writing up my Flow article last week and talking about the potential power shift on the cards between Melbourne City and Melbourne Victory, and I kind of thought, this is a juicy headline, but I don't think it's going to go anywhere. Next minute, what do you know, Melbourne City wins 6-0 and absolutely just soul-crushing for Melbourne Victory and their fans. And to make matters worse for them, Marco Rojas has gone down, their star Kiwi international, in training this week. He'll be out for the majority of the season, it looks like. So Victory, who host Adelaide United Saturday night, the Reds looking at winning their 4th game in a row. Melbourne Victory just looking at mounting some form of positivity to get their fans back on board. But I'll tell you what, it's going to take a huge effort. The only thing that bodes well for Victory in this one is Adelaide's terrible record in Melbourne, Jason.
That's true.
It is not pretty.
No, that is true. So if you have a look at that ladder, some of the big heavy hitters way down it. Melbourne City, they do have a couple of games in hand, and they're still right in the hunt, as Ellis has pointed out. But look at that. Sydney FC, Brisbane Roar, 6th and 7th, respectively, on the ladder. Perth Glory down in 8th. Mind you, they've only played the 8 matches, and they haven't had a draw yet. They're 4 and 4. Basically, so they at least get results. We know that. It'd be exciting to follow.
Absolutely, and they do play the Central Coast Mariners this weekend so soon after they went down to them at home just last week it was, and it was a very flat performance from the Glory, who will obviously be relying heavily on winning games at home this season, so it'll be interesting to see how they go on the road. Again, obviously we know Richard Garcia's probably got the best squad on paper going around in this league, so there'll be a bit of pressure on him that eventually comes around if the Glory are unable to resurrect their form away from home.
All right. Well, we'll leave it there. A-League action, of course, Ellis's article this week. What did you learn through the week? Well, Ellis has put it to paper and got it up on the website. Or does it put it to paper anymore, or do you... I'm not sure. When you put it to keyboard and stick it up on a website, what do we say about that?
You put it to digital.
There you go. It's up in there now, and it looks at the MacArthur Bulls and City taking on each other. Big game there. And my favourite one is Adelaide United has never been further ahead of Melbourne victory. Warms the cockles of my heart, Ellis.
I'm glad to hear it, Statman, but as a passionate Reds fan, I'm holding my breath because a trip away to Melbourne, it doesn't matter who's in what form, it all goes out the window. When the original rivalry is showcased, anything happens, Statman.
Banana peel time. We'll talk more about that next week. Check out Ellis's work on flownews24.com.au. For now, hang around, mate. We've got plenty to come.
I'm not going anywhere.